Vlad III of Wallachia, known to history as Vlad the Impaler. His name evokes terror, whispered legends, and tales of unspeakable cruelty. But behind the myth lies a ruler forged in one of the most violent eras of Europe. Was he simply a monster, or a man shaped by survival, politics, and fear? Today, we explore the darkness, the truth, and the legend. Vlad was born in 1431 in Sighisoara, a fortified town in Transylvania, then part of the Kingdom of Hungary. Although he was born there, his family belonged to the noble lineage of Wallachia, a principality south of the Carpathians known for its turbulent politics and frequent conflicts with neighboring powers, including the Ottoman Empire. Transylvania was not an independent country, but a semi-autonomous region under Hungarian suzerainty, with its own local administration and fortified towns. It was home to Saxons, Hungarians, Romanians, and Settlers, each with distinct customs and privileges. In contrast, Wallachia was predominantly Romanian, with a small presence of Greeks, Bulgarians, and other merchants, and its society was organized around the voivode and the boyar nobility. Life in both regions shared many similarities. Towns were walled and fortified, and daily life revolved around commerce, crafts, and agriculture. Both regions had diverse populations with distinct customs and privileges. Families like Vlad's lived in noble residences, surrounded by retainers, and from childhood, he would have been aware of both comfort and the fragility of status. The political situation in Eastern Europe at this time was tense. The Kingdom of Hungary was a major regional power, struggling to defend its borders and maintain influence over semi-autonomous regions like Transylvania and Wallachia. To the south, the Ottoman Empire was expanding aggressively, having conquered parts of Bulgaria and Serbia, and posed an ever-present threat to the Balkans. Wallachia, where Vlad's family held rule, was independent but vulnerable, constantly navigating diplomacy, tribute, and military threats from both Hungary and the Ottomans. His father, Vlad II Dracula, was a member of the Order of the Dragon, sworn to defend Christendom from Ottoman expansion. This constant tension, caught between two powerful neighbors, and the precarious balance of regional power shaped Vlad's worldview from the very start, instilling in him a sense of survival in a world defined by loyalty, betrayal, and violence. In 1442, Vlad and his younger brother Radu were taken hostage by Sultan Murad II, the ruler of the expanding Ottoman Empire. Although Wallachia was not part of the Ottoman Empire, it was a neighboring principality of strategic importance. The Ottomans wanted to secure the loyalty of Vlad's father, Vlad II Dracula, ensuring he paid tribute and did not ally with Hungary. Holding the children guaranteed compliance and served as a warning against rebellion. During these years, Vlad, around 11 years old, and his younger brother, Radu, around 7 years old, lived at the Ottoman court in Edirne, surrounded by wealth, splendor, and the strict discipline of the Sultan's household. He witnessed the training of soldiers, the administration of the empire, and the elaborate ceremonies of the court. However, life was also full of danger and fear. The court was a place of intrigue, where betrayal could be deadly. Vlad was constantly reminded of his precarious position, learning to navigate complex politics and survive in a foreign environment. While Radu adapted and even gained favor with the Sultan, Vlad remained wary, growing stern, calculating, and intensely aware of the consequences of disloyalty. These formative years instilled in him a belief that survival demanded ruthlessness and vigilance. At the same time, Europe was a continent in conflict. The Ottomans were expanding, the papacy was attempting failed crusades, and regional powers constantly vied for territory. Vlad's youth was shaped by these clashes of empires and ideologies. By 1456, at the age of 25, Vlad reclaimed the Wallachian throne. The Ottoman strategy of holding him hostage as a child had no lasting effect. Vlad began his reign with no loyalty to the Ottomans. He inherited a land of corruption, lawlessness, and constant threat. To assert control, he used terror. Nobles suspected of betrayal were executed or forced into grueling labor at his fortress of Poenari. Impalement became his signature method, leaving victims to writhe and die in public view. Vlad also reformed administration and taxation, strengthened fortifications, and organized local militias to secure borders. His punishments were carefully designed to instill fear and discourage dissent, while his governance focused on restoring order and central authority. While brutal, such punishments were not unheard of in Europe. England executed traitors by hanging, drawing, and quartering. France used the wheel. But Vlad's scale, theatricality, and personal involvement were exceptional, creating a psychological impact that lingered across Europe and solidifying his reputation as a ruler who blended law, terror, and strategic governance. The principality had been racked by political instability, with rival factions of boyars competing for power, often backed by either Hungary or the Ottomans. His rule was marked by both iron discipline and calculated brutality, intended to stabilize Wallachia and restore order in a region constantly threatened by powerful neighbors and internal dissent. In 1462, Sultan Mehmed II, conqueror of Constantinople, invaded Wallachia. Outnumbered, Vlad waged guerrilla warfare, burning fields, poisoning wells, and striking in night raids. The Ottoman army encountered what would become a legend, the Forest of the Impaled, thousands of prisoners displayed as a grim warning. Across the continent, rulers waged their own brutal wars, showing that violence was often a tool of survival and power. Europeans briefly hailed him as a defender of Christendom, yet his extreme methods made allies uneasy. Even those who admired his resistance were unsettled by the ferocity of his punishments, fearing that such cruelty could destabilize Wallachia and strain political alliances. Despite his victories, Vlad was betrayed by King Matthias Corvinus of Hungary and imprisoned in 1475. Although he had been an ally against the Ottoman Empire, Vlad's fierce independence and uncompromising methods made him a liability in the eyes of the Hungarian king. Matthias feared that Vlad's unpredictable behavior, his relentless campaigns against both Ottoman forces and rival Wallachian boyars, and his reputation for extreme cruelty could destabilize the region and undermine Hungarian interests. Rather than risk confrontation, Matthias chose political expediency over loyalty, detaining Vlad and leaving him vulnerable to his enemies. Stories of his cruelty spread quickly. Pamphlets painted him as a bloodthirsty tyrant, and the printing press amplified the legend, blurring fact and myth. While many of his deeds were real, tales of drinking blood or mutilating innocents were exaggerations, propaganda designed to vilify him. Vlad's life was dominated by politics and war, but he did have a family. He married, likely to Jelena Szilágyi, a woman of noble Hungarian descent, and fathered at least two sons, Mihnea and Michael, who later continued in Wallachian politics. While Vlad was imprisoned, his family faced uncertainty. Historical records suggest they remained in Hungary or other allied territories under protection, navigating the precarious situation created by Vlad's absence and the shifting political alliances. His family life, though overshadowed by war and captivity, reveals that behind the terror and brutality, Vlad maintained personal ties that connected him to a broader European noble network. After more than a decade in captivity, Vlad was released from prison, likely due to changing political needs in Hungary and pressure from Wallachian supporters who hoped he could restore stability. His return to Wallachia in 1476 was met with a mix of hope and fear. The people knew his reputation, yet many also remembered his earlier rule as one of order amid chaos. He regained the throne with the support of local nobles and Stephen III of Moldavia. Vlad's comeback was brief. He died in battle near Snagov, north of Bucharest, fighting Ottoman forces and possibly internal enemies, in December 1476, at the age of 45. His head was sent to Constantinople as proof of death, and his body was never definitively recovered, with some accounts suggesting burial at the monastery of Snagov, or Kamana Monastery. After his death, Wallachia descended into a period of instability. Rival claimants and internal factions fought for control, while the Ottomans continued to exert influence over the principality. With no clear authority in place, the challenges of leadership in a region caught between empires became evident, demonstrating that Wallachia's survival depended on ruthless governance and political cunning, a harsh reality that Vlad had understood all too well. His death marked the end of an era of direct confrontation with the Ottomans, Yet the memory of his reign continued to shape the region's politics and collective memory. Vlad the Impaler's legacy is both horrific and complex. He terrorized enemies, punished disloyal nobles, and defended his principality with extraordinary cruelty. Yet he was also a man navigating a violent world, where power, survival, and fear were inseparable. Vlad's full name reflects his heritage and reputation: Vlad III Tsepesh, meaning Vlad the Impaler. Each part of his name tells a story of lineage, power, and the fear he inspired. Europeans spread stories that amplified his terror, while Romanians remember him as a strict enforcer of law and defender of independence. The printing press and foreign pamphlets exaggerated his cruelty, contributing to the legend that would inspire the literary figure of Count Dracula, a character immortalized in Bram Stoker's 1897 novel. Historians see Vlad as a ruler whose methods were extreme, even for his time, a man whose life straddled the line between history and myth. Vlad the Impaler remains a figure of darkness, a ruler whose life, crimes, and strategies continue to challenge our understanding of morality, power, and survival in a brutal age. His influence endures in both historical scholarship and popular culture, a reminder of how fear, legend, and history can intertwine to create a lasting imprint on collective memory. In the shadow of history, Vlad the Impaler endures, a man of flesh and blood whose story became legend, reminding us that the past is never far from the fears and fantasies of the present.